Hello from the Costa del Sol and welcome to Life in Spain News, my little YouTube channel where I try and bring you a selection of news stories from across Spain, be it local, national, international based. Now to start with today, I should bring to your attention a mistake I made in my last video. Yes, we're all human and we do make mistakes. Because I was reporting about the Ryanair and the axing of 1,000 flights to Spain during the winter. And by mistake, as pointed out by Janet and my good wife, I managed to put up a graphic which basically stated that Ryanair were to cancel 1 million flights. Now, of course, that is not the case. They are proposing to cancel 1,000 flights. Now, to continue with that particular story, because there's more information has come out since then, and Ryanair have put out a tweet after all the rumours were circulating through the news outlets. And it does appear now that Ryanair will be cancelling a vast number of flights, which is set to cut passenger numbers by 1 million over the winter period here. Well, this is pretty bad news because capacity was set to get dropped by up to 41%. And this will mainly affect rural areas, with a lot of airports now being closed for the winter duration, as they depend on Ryanair. Of course, these things get quite politicised, and once again, Ryanair have pointed the finger at the Spanish government and the people who run the airports for the charges that have got too high and make it not viable enough to fly to these places. Now, of course, this does affect rural areas quite dramatically, as a lot of these areas do depend on these airports and people coming in to visit, especially through the winter. And if these airports are closed, it will cost people jobs, businesses will shut down, and once again, it will have a terrible knock-on effect. Across Spain, there are 46 international airports, for anybody who wants to know that. And now it seems that a fair few will be shut through the winter. So let's see how that story develops. Now on to something summer and weather related, and that is the report this week that we've had record numbers of heat-related deaths through August here in Spain, with a number reaching the terrible figure of 2,170. Now, anybody who's been here during the summer months on holiday will probably be enjoying the beach and things like that, but there is a more sinister side to it here, especially for the elderly who live here, because the heat can be very brutal, especially inland. For anybody who's made the mistake of visiting Sevilla or Cordova during these months will know. Now, these, with an average temperature of 24 degrees across the mainland Spain, which is 2 degrees up on last year, this is not a great surprise because we had something similar in 2022 where temperatures were not far off that, an average, and we had very similar numbers of deaths. Hopefully, some sort of precautions being put in place to help people during these months, because it is an ongoing problem here. With the summer temperatures now expected to go deep into September, we can only hope that people are taking more precautions and less people will lose their lives, because this is quite a sad occurrence. And once again, I repeat, hopefully something can be done about this to prevent this in the near future. Hey, now on to some crime-related stuff and some figures that I read this week in the local press, which is that of the violent crimes on the Costa del Sol increasing this year. So far down here on the Costa del Sol, we've had 14 murders and 29 attempted murders. Now, I was quite shocked to read this because I've lived here for 23 years, and I would say I find in general the Costa del Sol a pretty safe place. Of course, there are areas you wouldn't go to. And when I was doing these videos with Dan, we actually discussed crime here on the coast, which was mainly consisted of minor type crime, of people attempting to break into cars and things like that. But unfortunately, there does seem to be a bit of an upturn in violent crime here, which is not exclusive to the Costa del Sol. It's something that happens across the world at the moment. But I wouldn't say down here is a particularly unsafe place. Now, if you look at statistics across the Western Europe, I think you'll find that Spain doesn't even make the top 10 when it comes to crime. So let's hope it stays that way, because this is a safe country. And if these stories are repeated in the UK press or wherever you may be, please take them with a pinch of salt, because in general here, things are pretty safe. Now, I didn't really want to cover this next story, but I only think it's fair, because once again, it's something that's happening across Europe, and that is this continued debate of immigrant centres or hotels and the riots outside, which continue mainly through the UK and through lots of parts of Europe. Now, we just had another incident here on the outskirts of Madrid, where rioters have gathered outside a immigration centre and have decided to voice their frustrations after it's reported a 14-year-old Spanish girl was raped by a 17-year-old Moroccan. Now, of course, this is the most horrendous crime and the last thing we want to read about. But once again, these things are being politicised. I'm not saying the immigration is not a problem. I'm not saying it doesn't need to be addressed, because obviously there is an issue there with something. But to put this into perspective, in the region of Madrid over this year alone, there have been over 256 cases of rape, which is a horrendous number. But once again, with the far-right parties playing this immigration card, they tend to jump on a case like this and publicise it. Well, obviously rape is a problem and gender violence is a problem, so maybe that needs to be addressed at the same time. Now, last week I brought you news of the Vuelta de España, Spain's Grand Tour cycle race, which runs here at the end of August into the beginning of September and happens every year, and how pro-Palestine demonstrators had been affecting that particular race. Now, as you can see by the footage here, those demonstrations have continued and are now causing a larger problem, as organisers are quite worried about if the race will actually finish or not. So much so that yesterday's stage was actually cut 20 kilometres from the finish line and declared a non-result, as organisers worried for the safety of the riders, with potential more pro-Palestine demonstrators set to take place on the finish line. Now, basically what they're protesting against, not particularly against the cycle race itself, but the participation of a team from Israel known as the Israel Premier Tech Team. Now, there have been many calls now from within the tour itself that this team withdraw, and I believe many messages have been sent and conversations have been had about them withdrawing from the tour itself, as riders are worried about the event itself being actually cancelled, and they feel that if they were to leave, we'll at least get to see a conclusion. If this happens or not will be another matter. Now, another sports versus politics related story here from the world of football, and that is relates to the club Villarreal, who play in the Spanish Premier Division and have just signed an Israeli player on the last day of the transfer window. The player we're talking about is a young man called Maynor Solomons, who last year was on loan, a successful loan period at the club Leeds United, and helped them obtain promotion up into the English Premiership. Now, this gentleman is an Israeli international, hence the sports meets politics angle again. And a lot of fans and media watchers in Spain are condemning this particular transfer, as Solomons in the past has raised a lot of controversy by openly supporting what's going on in Israel and supporting the Israeli state. We'll see how reaction is to this particular player on the pitch from both home and away fans. So watch this space. Now, today I had hoped to finish with a more cheerful article or story. And it is that, but unfortunately it was brought to my attention because once again, another pro-Palestine demonstration. Now, as many of you will know from travelling to Spain or being here in Spain, around the country are littered various iconic bulls which are 4 meters high and that can often be found beside highways, on hillsides, all over Spain, mainly through Andalusia. Now, there are 91 of these bulls, and they're originally owned by the Osborne company, who are famous for brandies and sherries, and used as an advertising campaign. Now, when that advertising campaign ceased, they decided then to paint over the Osborne name, making the black a complete black bull, and use it as a symbol of Spain. And I personally like it a lot. But as you can see by this footage here from Mallorca, pro-Palestine demonstrators have decided to give that black bull a new coat of paint. Now, this is not an uncommon occurrence here in Spain, and these bulls are often targeted for various graffitis, some good and some not so good, with the one here where I am often having its balls painted gold. As you can see here, the bull in Mallorca, which was the victim of the pro-Palestine demonstrators, has also been painted already this year, and that was when people were campaigning against the foreigner invasion in Mallorca itself. Now, I've seen various ones over the years, and various artists and various different things, but they do make these wonderful sight, and it does make me laugh when I see people use some sort of creativity and do something with these bulls. Right, that's all I got time for today. Please subscribe to my channel, please like my videos, and please leave a comment in the comment section below. I will catch you next time with hopefully some more happier news and some more updates on the wild boar, which seem to be very popular. See you soon and have yourselves a lovely day.